what is up with all this Brock Purdy slander and hate? And honestly, at this point, I just think Brock Purdy is misunderstood for something that's not even his fault, right? The kid is in his second year, first year as a full-time starter, right? And he is in the bowl, okay? Yes, he does have Christian McCaffrey. Yes, he does have an elite offensive line, defensive line. Yes, he does have Kyle Shanahan. Yes, he does have weapons, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. He has a great supporting cast. But why are we acting like this is his fault? It just doesn't make sense, right? So before we get into that, let's go all the way back, right? And this is because I want to defend Brock Purdy, okay? This team that the San Francisco 49ers have is a beast of a team built through years, right? Like there's levels to this team, right? They've had a Super Bowl window since about like 2018 to now, right? Their window is win now since 2018. And they started with their powerhouse line, defensive line, right? Drafting a defensive lineman every year, I think for like 4 years straight. At one point it was DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, and then they kept compiling with defensive powerhouses, right? Or players. And then in came George Kittle, in came Deebo Samuel, in came Brandon Ayuk, in came Fred Warner, in came Christian McCaffrey off of free agency or trade. And this team is literally just ready to go, right? They went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G in 2020. They lost, and then ever since then, they've been sniffing the Super Bowl, right? Either in the game to go to it or in it, right? Obviously, they lost again to the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost to the Rams the year after, and now they're in the Super Bowl, right? So for the past 4 years, they've either been in the bowl or a game to go to the bowl, right? So Jimmy G did not lead them to a Super Bowl. It was the defense, right? And we know it was who was it? Raheem Mostert, who just pretty much carried them. The run game carried them to the bowl, and then when it came to do big plays, like we talked about in my other video with Emmanuel Sanders, he couldn't make the throw to win the game, right? We know Jimmy G. We could just see, right? Jimmy G was just not the answer against the Chiefs in the bowl, against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. So what do? Now here's where it gets interesting, right? They keep Jimmy G and they throw everything but the kitchen sink to get Trey Lance out of North Dakota State, right? And then we're thinking Trey Lance is the next big thing. He beats out Jimmy G in camp and becomes the starter. They start trying to get it rolling, but we don't see much. He gets hurt. Jimmy G comes back into the mix. He takes over, and then eventually they both get hurt. And then here comes this Mr. Irrelevant last pick who is forced to play towards almost the middle of the season or a little bit after, and he just goes on to pile up wins, right? Doesn't lose a single regular season game until the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we know what happens there, right? He drops back, throws a pass, and his arm gets hurt by throwing it into somebody, right? And out goes his arm. And then the rest is history, right? And then Deebo Samuels was saying, if Brock Purdy plays, it's not even close, right? If Brock Purdy had played that game, they're in the Super Bowl and they're playing the Chiefs, right? And we didn't know. And then comes this season, right? Or the season that just passed. And the San Francisco 49ers, when they met the Philadelphia Eagles again, completely humiliated and annihilated them, right? Deebo was right. I mean, he just wasn't talking shit, right? He was literally telling you truth and facts. They completely humiliated them and started on their road to a losing streak. and then into the playoffs, out, you know? It was bad. And we saw it, right? But guess who was at the helm doing all this, right? It was Brock Purdy, okay? And yes, he did have a shaky season this year, but when it came time, besides the Green Bay Packers game, there were some games during the season. You know, he lost to the Minnesota Vikings. I think at one game he threw 3-4 picks. It was up and down, right? But keep in mind, okay, before we judge this guy on who he is, right? He wasn't supposed to be here. He was literally forced. Not even a situation. He was forced into a team that is ready to win now. All right, Brock Purdy, what are you gonna do about that? We need you. And they didn't even. I believe they didn't even force him that same, because the culture in there knows that it's Super Bowl or bust for the San Francisco 49ers team. So they didn't even need to tell him, right? Like, hey, you know what time it is? You need to win us. No. Everybody around him, George Kittle, CMC, just said, yo, play your game. And this is where I get into my other topic, right? It's still Brock Purdy. Is he a game manager or is he a game changer, right? And there's been still talk and slander about this, right? He's only a game manager, yada, yada, yada. He can't make the big throws when it's time to win, or he can't take this team to win the game, you know, when he's needed, when his arm is needed, and not just dink and dunk passes to CMC or anything, right? Against the Green Bay Packers, he did struggle, right? But against the Lions, the second half, he struggled the first half, right? And then the second half, he literally put that team on his back, and he made big throws. He made big scrambles. He made key plays. Obviously, some luck was involved, right? But we all need that, right? And luck is honestly when hard work meets opportunity, right? And we get to see that a lot in the postseason. And you need it. Everybody needs it, right? Everybody's had a little bit of luck, and you need it. But he literally accelerated his game the second half because he was playing really horribly against the Lions. And then if he can just keep that mindset, you know, just let the game go on and just take what the defense gives you. It's okay to dink and dunk. Just hand the ball off to CMC. You have the offensive player of the year right behind you, and he literally can do anything. He's a go-go gadget, versatile player. Hey, let's see what type of 49ers defense shows up. At that point, all he needs to be is a game manager, right? And that's okay. Now, the difference between a game manager and a game changer is, I believe every quarterback is a game manager. Tom Brady was the ultimate elite game manager, right? Took literally what everybody gave, what every defense gave him, didn't hold the ball for long, made the right choices. And if it wasn't the right choice, it was a pass out of bounds, it was a dink and dunk short. Hey, we'll punt it, we'll let our defense do its job, and then if we get the ball back, we'll go ahead and fix some things, right? And that's okay. That's every quarterback should be that way. The difference going to a game changer is when all else fails, what can you do to change the game, right? We don't have that much game changers in the league, right? Pat Mahomes right now is the ultimate game changer, because when nothing's working, when people are dropping balls, the defense is just giving up yards, touchdowns. Can you, based off of your arm, based off of your legs as a quarterback, make the game-changing play to win a game, right? Brock Purdy showed a little bit of that last game. We already know Patrick Mahomes could do this. But let's not get it twisted with Brock Purdy, right? You can't, yes, he does have a phenomenal supporting cast and resources around him, right? But how many quarterbacks have we seen in the past, I can't bring them all up right now, that have had a crazy amount of weapons around them and never even sniff a playoff game, right? You know what? I'm not even going to compare, right? Mr. Irrelevant, making under $1 million, doesn't even have his own place, wasn't supposed to be here. They accelerated his career into, hey, you were just going to be a backup, maybe make the practice squad. Probably not even going to be on our team next year, just to have you as a backup to the backup to the backup to the backup to, boom, you're in the Super Bowl. You have to save our season. You have to give us a ring, right? That's what we need to see. And I don't think it's fair. And I think Brock Purdy has been playing, or has kept his head held up high after so much pressure, right? Nobody even needs to tell him that, hey, this team needs to win now. What can you do, Brock Purdy? He already knows that. And he's been hearing the chatter, right? If he makes a bad play, if he makes a bad play instantly, I don't know if Brock Purdy's ready for this kind of stage, right? Or, he's going against Patrick Mahomes, and if the defense doesn't show up, can we rely on Brock Purdy to save us the game? I don't understand why he has to hear all that. He knows what position he's in, and it's not fair. He wasn't supposed to be here, and then he took the opportunity of a lifetime and ran with it, right? We saw way back when, Tom Brady, when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, that was it. We never saw Drew Bledsoe again. Tom Brady took the opportunity, never took it for granted, and then we know his career, right? Brock Purdy is doing the same thing. So, also, I don't think there's no pressure. Or if there is, it'd be kind of stupid, right? So, if he wins, there's going to be two stories, and I'm going to end this right here, right? There's going to be two stories. If he wins, they're going to talk about how, oh my goodness, Mr. Irrelevant beat a Goliath and Patrick Mahomes and stopped him from winning his third Super Bowl ring and Super Bowl MVP. He's the greatest of all time, right? We might get that, right? Depending on how he plays. And then if he loses, I don't want to see everybody talk about how, since they kept up the slander, right? I don't want them to talk about, it's only really his first full year as a starter. The stage was too big for him. He was Mr. Irrelevant, hasn't even gotten paid yet. It's just his second year. It's okay. I don't think we should have that much on him. If he's going to continue with the Super Bowl and whatever outcome happens, I better hear one of those two stories, right? If he loses, I don't want to hear, they have to look for a quarterback. No. To end my video, let's respect Brock Purdy for what he's done and where he's at. That's Super Bowl 58. And you don't just get there riding the coattails of the resources around him, right? He still has to make every throw. He still has to follow every play call. And he still has to make every big decision. All right. And with that being said, whatever happens, Brock Purdy, I'm proud of you. And I could say he's pretty good. I don't know if you caught that. But agree or disagree with Brock Purdy. Should we call him a bust? Should we call him the perfect game manager? Agree or disagree? Meet me at the 50-yard line. That's all I got. Peace.